everyone. Welcome to 10 Movies, where every season we focus on one actor through 10 of their most iconic films. This season, we've decided to dive into the work of Mr. Harrison Ford, actor icon and arguably the most handsome man to wear a fedora. I'm Hemel Javeri, and with me is my co-host and friend, Brian Minter.
Hemel, they killed his wife. It was a man with one arm, and you're sending him to prison. Why don't you believe him? It's 1993's The Fugitive, starring Harrison Ford.
And Tommy Lee Jones.
And it absolutely must be admitted, Tommy Lee Jones. Just all over this movie.
Yes, this episode...
Tommy Lee Jonesing about for all he's worth.
This episode, we are going deep on 1993's The Fugitive, directed by Andrew Davis.
Andrew Davis, yes, who we learned only moments before recording, although you would think perhaps he had a record of this kind of film, has mostly only directed Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris movies.
Wow, that is a lot of Steven Seagal slander. But yes, this is the jewel in his crown, apparently.
It is. This is his big swing.
But yeah, we're here to talk about The Fugitive, which I believe is really like it's in the canon of Harrison Ford films. Like when you think about big Harrison Ford films that he's known for, The Fugitive is right up there.
Also, for people of a certain age like ours, there was a point in time when the way you watched movies like this was on TBS.
Yes.
And I feel like if we had to go back and look at like the top 5 TBS movies, The Fugitive is probably on that list.
The Fugitive is still on pretty much every night of the week on some random cable channel.
It's a classic pork chop movie.
I think you're a cord cutter. I still have cable, and literally...
You could watch The Fugitive every night if you wanted to.
If I wanted to, I could, yes.
He's running around Chicago. He's dyeing his hair. He's being resourceful.
But yeah, let's talk about the plot of The Fugitive.
Yeah, what happens in the film The Fugitive?
Well, it stars Harrison Ford as Richard Kimball.
Dr. Richard Kimball.
Who is a vascular surgeon.
Mm-hmm, very serious man.
He is doing some doctor-y stuff. And
his wife is murdered, Hemel. Why don't you care?
He comes home to find that his wife has been brutally murdered. Not just murdered, brutally murdered. And then Chicago's worst cops, by the way. Like the worst cops.
This movie loves the US Marshals, but it has an enormous amount of contempt for the Chicago Police Department.
I mean, they said, fuck the police.
Yeah, every cop in this movie is a dumb asshole.
Anyway.
Who is wrong.
Anyway, so...
Yeah, well, we know that Harrison Ford killed his wife. How could it be otherwise? They're like, you can see the truth happening behind them, and they don't turn around to see it, multiple times. And they're supposed to be guarding a house, and people are breaking in and having gunfights, and the cops are just out in the car eating meatball hoagies.
Anyway, I forgot.
This is not a Thin Blue Line kind of movie, and I respect that about it.
The cops. The cops
flub the investigation.
Yeah, they flub the investigation like you wouldn't believe.
They think he did it.
They talked to Harrison Ford for about half a second, and they're like,
he obviously did it. Look, he's got a beard. They weren't Boston cops. I just don't do a Chicago accent very well.
Anyway, so and apparently nobody, the trial, the jury, all of that is corrupt.
Nobody caught it.
Nobody caught
it. There can't have been a lot of evidence he killed his wife because he didn't.
Yeah. Anyway, so he is getting ready to be sent to jail. There is a spectacular bus crash. He escapes, and then he's going to clear his name. So he basically is running through the streets of Chicago, trying to clear his name, trying to find the one-armed man. And this entire time,
Tommy Lee Jones. He's after him. Delightfully after him.
As a dedicated US Marshal, Sam Gerard.
Now, here's an interesting bit about, and, maybe we're jumping ahead a little here, but one thing a lot of times, a movie that is really beloved like this is a little weird and a little different than, there's a lot of, standard genre beats here, but something I think is genuinely interesting is that Tommy Lee Jones is Harrison Ford's antagonist. He's hunting him. They have some tense scenes. There's a couple face-offs, but the whole time you get a lot of Tommy Lee Jones and his wacky team of US Marshals, and they hate the cops too. The whole time you're kind of root for them, and then he gradually starts to believe in Richard Kimball's innocence.
Yeah.
So he's the antagonist the whole time, but he's never the villain, and that tension resolves right at the very end of the movie. I feel like that is very well done.
It's really well done, and there's a reason that this movie is 20 years old 30 years old at this point. Right?
Yeah, this is an oldie. This is a classic film.
This movie's 30 years old.
Practically black and white.
It's practically black and white. It should be on Turner Classic Movies at some point. But there's a reason that it has stood the test of time, and it's because of this tension and this dynamic that is like you're rooting for both sides at the same time because you want him to get away, but you kind of understand why he's got to catch the guy, and then you're right, it comes together in the end.
Now, I enjoyed the film The Fugitive. I felt it was not great, but good. It sounds like you also enjoyed the movie.
So here's the thing. I did enjoy the film. I really enjoyed the Tommy Lee Jones portions of it, and I enjoyed the tension. You know what I did not like? Harrison Ford.
Oh, interesting. Well, this is let's talk about his character a little bit in a moment, because I think this is a slightly off role for him.
Yeah.
But in case you didn't know, this movie has a sequel called US Marshals.
I did know that.
Starring only Tommy Lee Jones.
I did know
just
that.
Just monologuing on stage.
I did know that because
Have you seen that one?
I've seen that one independent of like realizing that it was a sequel to The Fugitive, and I was like, wow, this is exactly the same character he plays in The Fugitive before I put two and two
play
together.
another gruff US Marshal, Tommy Lee Jones.
Anyway, so for folks who, but I think the key here is that he's Tommy. This to me is not even a Harrison Ford movie, really. It's a Tommy Lee Jones film.
Well, I don't know. I think if you looked at, the B plot is the US Marshals and Tommy Lee Jones. A lot of screen time there, a lot of great character development, but less, I think, probably like 60-40. It's still, Harrison Ford's still doing a lot here.
Yes. Harrison Ford is still doing a lot, but like, I think you're right in that this is a very different character.
He's also
him.
never talking. He's got like three lines. Yeah, all his scenes are just like him solving a problem alone in a room.
He just is like looking tense or like maybe eating a sandwich. Like that's all he does.
He never talks to anybody. Maybe that's why we like Tommy Lee Jones, because he's riffing with all these guys.
He at least doesn't have like stink of despair on him. Let's talk about the cast.
Well, when we talked about Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones, that's about everybody.
Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones, Celia Ward in a lot of gauzy, weird close-ups.
Oh, the wife who is
the wife.
oh my God, the character's
murdered.
wife was killed. He's so sad. It's every movie. But I will say that this movie, often when the wife is killed just to motivate the man character, it happens early on and then he's sad about it. This movie, though, wallows in it. Like every third scene is like a slow-mo flashback of her murder, and she's bloody and it's terrible, and they at least leaned into the trauma of a violent murder.
I agree with that, and I think that is good in the sense that...
it's good when a woman gets murdered in her home, Hemmel? Awful.
In that we have to understand that the character has a ton of unresolved trauma from like watching his wife get murdered and like dying in
and
his
he got
arms.
sent to prison,
and he basically was in the house while she was getting killed. He just didn't know about it.
He was just like putting his keys down, making a sandwich, like, I'm home, she's getting killed.
Just thinking about boning her.
One-armed man.
So yeah, it is like there's a lot of other, the team of US Marshals is actually really great. Joe Pantoliano as his deputy.
Yeah, the bad guy from The Matrix.
Oh yeah, the bad guy from The Matrix. Yeah,
pork chop guy.
But yeah, those like that entire team dynamic I think works really great.
Yeah,
like,
they're all kind of like quirky and like and Tommy Lee Jones is sort of constantly verbally abusing them, but in a in kind of a affectionate, teasing way,
loving boss kind of way.
He's just they do anything for him kind of thing.
Yeah, not really a toxic work environment. He knows where the line is. But I do think we need to talk more about Tommy Lee Jones. We'll talk about Harrison Ford.
All right, yeah. What more is there to say about Tommy Lee Jones?
I think this is like the epitome of Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the
so
gruff but lovable, and an interesting pairing with another gruff but lovable actor. Right?
Yeah, two classic screen curmudgeons together at last.
Yeah, who kind of riffing off each other.
So I think probably an iconic scene from the movie. The first time Tommy Lee, he catches him like 3 times, and Harrison Ford keeps getting away. He's terrific at getting away, this guy. But yeah, they're in like a storm drain, and Tommy Lee Jones has his gun on him, and Harrison Ford says, "I didn't kill my wife," and it's supposed to be like this really powerful moment. She's like, "Oh, and in this that's the one thing he's saying to this guy," and Tommy Lee Jones says, "I don't care."
He's like, "I don't give a shit."
And like, of course, he will eventually learn to give a shit over the course of the film. But I think that really that makes his character like it really tells you everything about that guy, right? Yeah. Like his job is not to care about that. No. That's settled business. His job is to bring this guy in.
He's like, the court decided that you are guilty, my friend, and my job is to bring you in.
I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. I'm the guy who comes to get you when you escape.
That's what I'm going to do. But yeah, it's just a fantastic role for him. Just like all the little beats that you love about Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, he's always dunking on the like not just the Chicago cops, but early on he's dunking on like the local cops that botched the investigation.
The sheriffs, just all of it.
He's like, give me
cops.
A cop I can dunk on. But he
hates
kind of
cops.
is a cop, right? Like a US Marshal is just a kind of cop.
Well, as somebody who watched like all 8 seasons of Justified, yes, I know a lot about the U.S. Marshal Service.
I knew you would find a way to bring up Justified. Yeah, it's always right below the surface, ready to pounce with you.
Before we're through, this is going to be a Justified podcast.
It basically may as well be. We talk about it enough.
Are we ready to talk about Harrison Ford?
Yeah. So why you didn't feel that this was the strongest role for Mr. Ford?
I think that I'm curious what you think. Like, this is not a typical Harrison Ford role, because I agree, because he's really playing like a bit of a victim here, and he's not powerless. He's very reactionary. And he's very competent, but there's no, all the stuff that you usually associate with Harrison Ford in this film, like a lot of it is like very absent. But I do also think that the like continuous flashbacks to his wife's murder
It's a lot of the murder.
Like, dwelling
and each time you get a little more, right? Yeah. Like it's narratively important, right? You're always learning a little more about that moment. But yeah, there's a lot of it. And it is shot in it's treated in this like kind of trippy, flashbacky sort of way that wears a little bit. But now you and I have, I would say, become the nation's foremost scholars on Harrison Ford and his work. And we've developed some powerful tools for interrogating his films. Yeah. Let's deploy them now to understand more about this character.
Well, I maintain that when you cast Harrison Ford in a film, you're getting a set of characteristics that you want. One, befuddledness.
I think that Dr. Kimball he's competent, he's resourceful, but he is befuddled quite a bit of the time.
He constantly...
the whole first act, he's like, what the hell?
He's like, oh, what? He's
I'm in prison and a one-armed man killed my wife.
He's running through sewers. He's running through the streets of Chicago. He's breaking into hospitals. He's constantly befuddled.
He's exhausted. I mean, this would be a day for anyone. And he's, like the murder and the imprisonment and the breaking into everything.
Multiple points where I would have been like, you know what, just send me to jail.
And, I'd be like, look, I tried to find the one-armed man. It's really hard. Everyone's after me. I can't do it.
I'm going to do it from jail. You maintain that he's either the anti-hero or a Boy Scout.
He's a Boy Scout. He's absolutely a Boy Scout.
Absolutely a Boy Scout.
And in fact, like, the movie goes out of its way, and not badly, but it goes out of its way to remind us that he's a Boy Scout. Like, in the original Prison Bus, our trains, like the one prisoner's dead, the other one escapes, and the cop
bus crashes, and then the train's coming out.
And one of the guards just shot Harrison Ford's like, oh, probably mean my death, but I'm going to save this guy. And then later he's posing as a janitor in a hospital, and even though he could be found out, he realizes someone is misdiagnosed, this kid with kind of a chest thing, and he changes the orders, and it almost gets him caught, but he's got to do it because he cares so much.
He's going to save that life.
He is an Eagle Scout times 2.
It's just a very annoying character. It's like, God, Richard, like, he's constantly breaking into the hospital. It's too goody-goody.
Yeah, he is relentlessly decent. And I think the fact that he is in, like, he's a fugitive, if, the title didn't give that away. I think that leavens the goody-goodiness for me, because he's constantly running and stressed and he's breaking the law. But yeah, if it was just a movie about this guy going about his day-to-day, he would be pretty insufferable. He's not real interesting.
But there's like you said, with Tommy Lee Jones, you get so much. In this one, there's not a lot of depth. Let's talk about charm. The charm factor. Is there a charm factor here?
I don't know that Dr. Richard Kimball is all that charming.
I don't think there is.
Yeah, he engenders loyalty in others because he keeps encountering people from his old life who are like, I don't even care that you killed your wife. I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
But he's not charming.
He's not charming. He's not, and you could see this role cast differently, and that somebody would have deployed that charm to their advantage, and he's got none of that. He's just like hangdog Greek guy the entire time.
Yeah, he's like if Jason Bourne was having a terrible day all the time. Is this guy? Because he's always solving a problem. Every time you turn around, he's figuring a way to do it out with minimal resources. And that's really kind of like the energy of the movie. He's like, oh, what crazy scheme is he going to hatch next? But he's never enjoying himself. It's never like Ocean's 11 style finger snapping.
His wife just died,
and there's a one-armed man.
And honestly, you know what? I will say this, that there's like at some point someone says to him like, oh, it's not your fault or something like that. I'm like, if you had gotten up the stairs a little bit quicker, you might have been.
He didn't know there was a one-armed assassin in his bedroom. How could he have?
He could have figured it out. Anyway, sometimes I actually think that he's kind of a dick, right? Like in a lot of his
Harrison
roles.
Ford character.
Harrison Ford character.
But I don't think this character is a dick.
I don't
he
think
doesn't
so.
exhibit a lot of dickishness.
I don't think so. He's like too annoyingly good on this side. Moms love him and dads want to be him.
Well, I don't know that I want to be him as a dad because he seems like he's got a very stressful life. But yeah, he's he's his usual handsome, decent man of integrity self.
I mean, I do think that if you were like, who doesn't want to marry a handsome, rich, vascular surgeon in Chicago?
He was set when the movie starts.
Set. Yeah, he was doing well for himself.
I did read a little bit somewhere, I don't remember where, and you and I famously do very little research, that Harrison Ford always wanted to grow like a beard, a mustache for a movie, because he's that kind of guy. And the studio's like, no, he's freaking Harrison Ford. When we want to move units, don't let him put a beard on. So this was the one time he got, because he starts with a beard, he immediately shaves it off to disguise himself. But you could almost sense that, like, for a moment, he got to have that beard he wants to hide behind.
He looks good in the beard.
Yeah, he does. He looks good at everything. He's Harrison Ford. He's craggy.
He's craggy.
He's so craggy.
Handsome. I don't know. It's just the whole Richard Kimball-ness of it is like really not sitting well with me. He's like my least favorite part of this film.
So there's before we talk about what the movie has to say, there is, I said earlier, I think that the movie was good but not great. To me, there is a glaring flaw in the story. And that is, so the movie revels in the minutia of his fugitiveness, right? Like every time you turn around, he's forging an ID, or he's grabbing a clipboard, or he's slipping past the thing. And then we cut to Tommy Lee Jones, and they're trying to outsmart him, but they can't. He's so great. But all of this is in service for a long time to not a lot, right? Like his wife has been killed. We don't really know why. And then the movie gets to the very end, they're like oh shit, we forgot to have a reason this all happened.
Yeah.
Really late in the game and without a lot of context, we learn that he figured out that this new drug was, causing, problems and liver damage. And so they weren't there to kill his wife, they were there to kill him. Oh my God. And but that reveal is so flat because if the movie had given us a reason to think that maybe they were there to kill the wife because she's wealthy, and also given us a little more context for this sort of medical scam, right? Which I don't know that a pharmaceutical company would market a drug that kills people instantly, because I feel like that
they're
would...
evil, but that would kill their bottom line.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't think maybe they wouldn't care that much, but it would be a PR and legal disaster.
Exactly.
So that's a plot hole too. But yeah, just like if it had set up these two elements, right? Like if early on we'd understood that he had this secret medical knowledge, and then the reveal, like, oh, they weren't there to kill the wife, they were there to kill him all along. That would have been so much more satisfying. But instead, you kind of almost forget to think about the motive, and then the movie tucks one in right under the wire, and you don't have time to give a shit about it.
No, it's like so tacked on and hacky at the end of it. Like,
it's
because
hacky.
he's like fighting, like the entire, like 2/3 of the movie has been the mano on mano between Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford, right? Like,
and then there's a brand new villain at the very end.
At the very end, there's like 2 brand new villains. There's the one-armed guy, and then his best friend, apparently, who set him up to be framed or killed or whatever.
Yeah, and the denouement, he goes and there's a conference, and he like denounces the pharmaceutical company. But yeah, all that was pretty flat because I just found out about the pharmaceutical angle 2 minutes ago. Yeah, I'm not ready for a big speech.
No, and you're kind of like, okay, but where's Tommy Lee Jones? Like, where is he going to come back in here? So that's, I didn't like that either. And what also really kind of bugs me, but I think this is like definitely more about like what the movie unintentionally is saying versus like what it meant to say is...
We will catch you, movies. Even if you don't mean to say it, we will see you saying it.
Excuse me. I think part of the reason that I don't like this character is that every time we like see him thinking about his wife or thinking about his like marriage or his relationship, it's always the same thing. Like, you don't learn anything about this wife's character. Like, you learn that she was hot and that she wanted to sleep with him, and that's it.
Yeah,
and
they seem to have a very healthy, loving marriage, but you don't get any...
It's like literally the same, like, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. She's like staring, like gazing at the camera kind of thing. Like, there's no other depth to it whatsoever.
Yeah, the movie spends a lot of time on the detailed mechanics of the murder and his fugitiveness.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that time could have more usefully been spent on, like his relationship with his wife and this context for the plot.
Fleshing it out so that in the end you actually cared about the motive. But I don't even care about the motive.
Yeah, I don't miss the wife because I never really got to know her.
I don't miss the wife. I don't really care that somebody was after him. And I certainly don't care about the pharmaceutical bullshit that got tacked on at the end. Because they don't spend any time developing like her as a character or like what are the stakes of that relationship whatsoever.
Yeah, and those are easy fixes, and the movie just missed them. So that's why I'm giving it a B rather than an A.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that the best part is the Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones dynamic, and everything else kind of suffers in comparison.
Now, this is perhaps a minor thing, but we like to interrogate the cultural valence of a film. So the villain is here a one-armed man.
Yeah.
And I think there's a long tradition in popular culture of making, people with physical disabilities other in some way, right? Like a seer or mystic is always blind, and, like a bad guy always has a hook or one eye or a peg leg. And so this was based on like a 1960s show. And maybe but I didn't actually, and I kept expecting that, but I don't know that this guy is demonized because he has a prosthetic arm. I feel like that's just like, he just happens to have a prosthetic. Like Harrison Ford uses that to like track down his identity and that's kind of a plot sticking thing. So maybe that's what it was about. But I did feel it was kind of refreshing, and then like, he's not, the fact that he's missing an arm is just part of his thing.
Yeah, it's just part of the things, and like maybe the thing that gets him caught is that it's because like his prosthetic limb was like traceable. But I feel like in the 60s version, it was definitely
he's missing an arm, so he's evil.
Yeah, he's missing an arm.
The
so
guy's
he's
an
bad.
asshole, and he's a murderer. But at one point, like someone even says, like, "How'd you lose an arm?" He's like, "I lost it in line of duty because he was a cop." So the one time they even mention it, they're giving in this like sort of tragically heroic backstory.
By the way, one-armed man guy got way more backstory than Celia Ward, the dead wife. Dead wife really is just like,
I don't know. She's rich.
Listen, let me tell you, if you are a hot lady and you go to a fancy party with your husband, that's literally the last night of your life. Like, you are gonna die at some point.
You should not have dressed in that nice gown and gone to a party.
You should not have dressed so hot because someone is on their way to murder you.
Also there are, so Jane Lynch, is in a very, like, she's got like a scene or two. She's nice to him. Other than her and Celia Ward, who is dead for the entire film, no female characters in the movie. No women in the movie at all. It's just it's a world of men doing manly things.
There is one character in the film, Julianne Moore. She plays...
Oh, yeah, right. I forgot.
She has this, like, weird... This must have been one of her first roles.
Yeah, because you see her like, oh, she's going to be important, and then she's not important.
She's not. She is the doctor who figures out that Harrison Ford, like, changed the diagnosis so that little boy could be saved. But I will say one thing I noticed, and I feel like you have to be paying really close attention to pick this up, and because I'm watching it for the podcast, I am paying close attention. They did some really nice, like, queer coding with Jane Lynch's character.
They did?
Yeah, if you go back and watch The Fugitive, like, you look at the costuming that she has, like, a pride pin on, and she has, like, a very visible pin that says, like, hate is not a value at this hospital or something like that. I
totally missed it.
It's so subtle.
I was too busy being heteronormative.
Yeah, and unless you're actually looking for it, like, they're definitely, like, the costuming team specifically is trying to code her as a queer or at least, like, LGBTQ positive character.
Yeah, and the Julianne Moore character, she's only there for a little bit. But I know you don't like Dr. Kimball, so you don't care that he's a nice man. But I feel like that was a good scene, right? Like she's like, hey, did you change these charges? She's kind of mad, and then he runs away. And then later she's being interviewed by the inept cops. Yeah. And she's like, yep, he saved that kid's life. Whoever he was, he saved that kid's life.
You know what's funny? I think I just don't like it because he's very passive in this film. Like, there's
what are you talking about? He's running, he's fugitiving is for all he's worth.
But he needs to be more, like, so one thing we talk about with Harrison Ford as, like, an action hero is that he's never cast as an action hero. He's either cast as the smuggler who, like, Han Solo, as, like, who just happens to be in the situation, the archaeologist who just happens to be fighting natives all the time, the CIA analyst who just happens to get
thrust into danger.
Same thing here. Richard Kimball, just a
totally thrust into danger.
who happens to be thrust into danger. never cast as like The Rock as an action
But
hero.
wasn't Dr. Kimball more relatable and believable for that reason? Like when he does actiony things, you're like, oh God, oh, what's gonna happen? He doesn't know how to do this stuff.
Well, it's the same thing. But like every Harrison Ford is like, you're like, oh God, that guy's gonna get his ass kicked, right? Like
He's being thrown from a moving train, and he doesn't have any training or padding.
You definitely don't feel that way with The Rock, right? Like when The Rock is on screen, you're never concerned about his actual.
That's why The Rock is boring and Harrison Ford is not.
Physical safety. Oh my God, I had a really so one of the best scenes in this entire film is just two old men running up and down the stairs. Like that is like, and I think that's so great.
It's an exciting chase.
It's like an exciting chase scene, and there's so much tension in just like two old guys like going up and down the stairs.
Well, they're middle-aged guys, I think. But yes,
okay, middle-aged guys. Sorry,
and that's like the third or fourth chase those two guys have specifically. Like,
yeah, they're not like. It's not The Rock. It's not Tom Cruise doing Mission Impossible stuff. It's like two lumbering middle-aged guys like running after each other.
Yeah, the movie lets us know that they're competent, they're courageous, but yeah, they're not necessarily men of action.
No, I don't know, and I guess it's maybe not passive, but it's just the Richard Kimball character is.
Well, you strongly disliked Dr. Richard Kimball, but aside from him, who did you think was the MVP of the movie?
Well, are we allowed to pick Tommy Lee Jones?
Of course, yeah. He's the obvious choice, for sure.
The obvious choice. Mm-hmm. That's the slam dunk.
Won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and got to be in the sequel, and Harrison Ford didn't. So
US Marshals.
Yeah, he certainly got his laurels there.
Listen, I think that if anybody watches The Fugitive, I think they're watching it more for Tommy Lee Jones. But yeah, it's got to be Tommy Lee Jones.
He's more memorable, I think.
He's way more memorable.
So, normally when we choose an MVP, whoever chooses for we never choose the same one. But I feel like we should make a rare exception to that, and I'm also going to choose Tommy Lee Jones. Every time he's on screen, you're like, yay, the guy's back.
But you watch this movie and you want more Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, say something gruff. Oh, he did.
You don't want more Richard Kimball. Like, I don't really care what happens to this guy. I'm glad.
They killed his wife and they put him in prison and you don't even care.
I'm glad.
You're like those Chicago cops. They didn't care either, Hemmel.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go back to the Chicago.
And they were embarrassed later.
Let's go back to the Chicago cops, because the movie's not against law enforcement, but it is against shitty city cops. That's where they draw the line.
But I do like the movie is that's another maybe an odd thing about it. Yeah, like the kind of rural cops the initial cops that investigate the crime, they fuck up. The whole criminal justice system clearly fucked up, even though we don't see it dramatized. The rural cops that investigate the train wreck, they don't understand what's happening. We keep cutting back to the Chicago cops. They're always screwing everything up.
Yeah.
So the movie is quite down on institutions, right?
Yeah.
Like Harrison Ford is like, he didn't do it, and yet he's being, hounded and chased. But then, of course, Tommy Lee Jones and his crew are. But don't you think that, like, the Tommy Lee Jones, I feel like real U.S. Marshals are probably tight asses, but the Tommy Lee Jones crew they're kind of like, one's got a ponytail and there's a wisecracker.
Well, I mean, they're good at their jobs, but they're also loose cannons.
It's a whole team it's a whole unit of loose cannons.
But they get away with it because they're good at their jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's where my $15.95 is going, to see loose cannons who are good at their jobs. So.
Give us more loose cannons who are wacky misfits, but they get the job done, Hollywood.
Not vascular surgeons crying about their dead wives.
He wasn't crying about his dead wife. He was trying to solve her murder.
He shed a couple of tears. So.
He probably did, yeah.
Let's talk about where this fits into the canon of Harrison Ford films.
Well, below the most iconic Harrison Ford roles, your Indiana Joneses, your Blade Runners, your Raiders of the Lost Arks, Han Solo. Sorry, I should have said that. But I feel like this is B tier, right? Like, this is a well-known role. People think of him in it. They're watching it on TBS every day, right?
Agree. Yeah, no, I think that this is the epitome of, look, we've talked about Harrison Ford's longevity, right? The longevity of his career, his ability to reinvent himself. He had peak Harrison Ford in the late 70s, 80s. Mid to early 90s.
He's got 2 TV shows right now. The man's 85 years old.
He's got, right now, I mean, in the 90s, he had Fugitive, Clear and Present Danger. He was just, owning the space of middle-aged action star, even though he was never really an action star.
Yeah, in the 80s, he was Mr. Genre movie star. Then in the 90s, he was, serious action thriller movie star. Now he plays old curmudgeons on television. Him and Joe Biden, they're like, you know what? Age cannot stop us from winning.
No, I mean, he's not curmudgeonly in this. I don't think he has a lot of charm yet. People love Harrison Ford.
He doesn't have a lot of personality, really. He's not charming or curmudgeonly. He's not really anything. He's just hounded.
In this film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you cast Harrison Ford in your film, so if you want to endure sympathy immediately, you want me to believe that this guy actually didn't kill his wife, it's Harrison Ford. He would never kill his wife. Yeah. He's Harrison Ford.
They didn't even have to show the scene where he doesn't kill his wife.
No.
We could have just taken his word for it.
He shows up on screen and no, there's no way he killed his wife.
That also might have given the movie a little more attention, because we don't really meet the one-armed man until quite late.
Yeah.
You could have held that reveal too, have us be they say he did, but he didn't, right?
Can you imagine a more ambiguous character if you cast a more ambiguous actor or character in this Harrison Ford role? And then you have this undercurrent of maybe he did and maybe he didn't. I don't know if it's Brad Pitt or...
Yeah, with Brad Pitt, you'd be like, maybe he did kill his wife.
Maybe he did kill his wife. I couldn't tell you. So, yeah, that's Harrison Ford right away. He didn't do it.
All right. Well, so we agreed that The Fugitive, if not the absolute top of the Harrison Ford canon, ranks quite high.
I think it ranks quite high. I think it is the epitome of what he's known for.
All right, I think if we get out of here now, we will have time to catch the third act of The Fugitive playing on cable when we get home.
I mean, I'm gonna go home and watch US Marshals right now.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Is it a fun watch?
It's actually pretty good, and it stars Robert Downey Jr.
Now, does it suffer that you're because in The Fugitive you get excited whenever Tommy Lee Jones comes back, but if he's the only guy or if he's the main guy, is it not as fun because you're getting all of them all the time?
No, it's great because you just feel like you're hanging out with Tommy Lee Jones, and that's what you want. You just want.
All right, next season on the 10 Movies Podcast, we will watch the films of Mr. Tommy Lee Jones. But for now, we are signing out. We will see you next week.